Well, hello, welcome back to On Second Thought. Today we're going to talk a little bit about what it means to be a parent and kids and church.
You're not going to let having a child dictate your schedule.
Smile, it ain't that bad. Okay, welcome back to On Second Thought. Thanks so much for joining us today. Appreciate you guys tuning in, listening, and hanging out with us as Stephanie and I just kind of have a conversation about life, about marriage, about parenting, about church, about Jesus, and everything else she decides that we're supposed to talk about. So, welcome. Glad you're here today.
It's dandy. I'm so glad to be here.
Are you?
Yes.
Good.
I'm not quite sure everybody likes this parenting because I'm not as funny.
Oh.
I don't banter as much with you.
Well, because this is such a serious topic, right?
It's very serious, and I'm a very serious person.
You're a very serious person and not funny at all.
Although Wednesday night at dinner, one of my sweet little elderly fellas stopped me. He goes, "Smile, Stephanie." I was like, he goes, "It ain't that bad." I was like, "I'm focused on something else." I was like, and it stops people from talking to me if I keep my face like this.
Smile, it ain't that bad.
Yes.
Did you say, do you know me?
Well, he does know me fairly well. That's the reason why he felt he could tell me that.
Smile, it ain't that bad. That's why we get a video podcast. I'm going to get you a shirt that says "Smile, it ain't that bad."
No.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, somebody wants us to get merch.
Oh.
On Second Thought shirts.
Oh, there we go.
I said I'm not nearly that special. So here's
I'm going to get one that says "Smile, it ain't that bad."
I'm not doing a video podcast. That's what'll be on the front.
Not going to do video podcast.
Yes.
Well, this is season 3. And in season 3, we've been talking about parenting. We've been talking about kids. We've talked about little kids and babies and a little bit older, potty training and those sorts of things. And we'll make our way to, oh, Lord, do we want to do an episode on teenagers?
I don't know.
Since we got 4 of those right there.
We'll figure it out.
4 teenagers right now, 19, 17, 16, 13. And then there's a 10-year-old, out there as well. But so here's where we're headed today. Kids and church. I highly recommend
kids and church.
Having kids and going to church. Okay? So both are highly recommended. But let me go all the way back to when we had kids. Our philosophy, we had kids, but you delivered the kid. You know what I'm saying. But our philosophy was you're at church pretty much as quick as you could be there.
But yes, but I do not. I mean, that's not a recommendation. That was just my mentalness.
Some people wait like 6 months, a year, and then they're like, well, maybe it's time. I got a call from a buddy this week, and he's like, our kid's 15 months old, and I think it's finally, like, he's never been around other kids, and I think it's time to maybe start getting him socialized. And I was like, yes, it is. So some people wait a really, really long time before they take their kids to church, and you delivered
I'm an overachiever.
Well, you delivered on a Thursday, and we're there with the baby in a papoose wrapped up on Sunday. So, but you say
yes, but there are a lot of there's a lot of caveats.
Look, I'm
that.
not talking about.
I have very easy deliveries.
I'm not talking about all the medical stuff, right? Yeah. That medical stuff is real, and Lord knows I have no idea about any of that. I was just told, stop petting me when you were delivering, so I was kind of rubbing your arm, and he's like, please don't pet me. So I
the
think
real story with that
there.
is I was mentally thinking, how can I tell him nicely to get his hands off of me? And I finally said, please stop touching me.
I thought it was petting, but anyway, I was just trying to be a comfort and an encouragement. But all that to say, everybody has a different situation when it comes to that. But if there's a medical reason you need to stay out for 6 months or a year, God bless you. But a lot of people stay out that long because it's like, well, our life is turned upside down. We don't know what to do. And so I think my point is, as soon as reasonably possible, medically possible, reasonably possible, get back engaged. Because what happens a lot of times is people will get out of the habit of going to church. And then it's kind of like, well, we had the kids and we just never really got back in it. You've heard that before, right?
Yes, and I think what you're trying to say is train
Apparently
your
I'm
children.
not saying it very well.
You're not. But
golly. All right. Thanks for
I
joining
don't
us
mean
today
it like
on
that.
Second Thought.
I think what
We're
you're
glad
trying
that you were here today. Talk to you later.
You're making all these women feel like they're terrible people. No, so what I think we're trying to say is you're not going to let having a child dictate your schedule and your life. Your child, is Sunday a different schedule and a whole different ball game? Absolutely. Was I not letting people touch my child? Absolutely. I put her all in the little carrier, and I mean, nobody touched my child. I know that's shocking that no one came up and tried to touch, but I wanted to be at church. I wanted to fellowship with believers, and I didn't want to be out, and I didn't really care. So your baby is literally going to sleep the first 13 weeks anyway during that time. They always sleep during the music and wake up when you start preaching. Like, that's just natural. And that's
I don't know,
okay.
a lot of people sleep while I'm preaching.
Not babies. They like to wake up when you start preaching. So I think it's just not letting the fact that it's Sunday and it's a different schedule dictate whether or not you come. And people will say, well, they're so used to they're cranky. It's their nap time. And okay, it's okay. They'll be off. They're going to be off for a whole couple of hours, and it will be okay. And you will be okay. So it's the way it is.
Maybe what I'm trying to say that I'm not doing a good job saying is, we have it on record. It is recorded. It is recorded.
And we can
audio.
edit that right on out.
Don't allow these changes of life to get you out of the habit of going to church, of being a part of what God wants you to do. We've had little kids in church. We've got teenagers in church, and sometimes teenagers sit further away, and so it can be harder to get your teenagers to obey in church than it is toddlers or little kids in church. I think that the point I wanted to start with is that needs to be the natural habit of your life, and if you're going to allow your kids to dictate that for a long period of time, you'll end up letting them dictate a whole lot more.
Yeah. Yes.
All right, so it's one thing to talk about little babies in church. They're going to be a lot harder to control or predict how they're going to behave. Sometimes they'll scream. They rarely say amen. They don't really sing along with the songs, and you don't know when they're going to have an outburst. And it's a little, let's be honest, it's a little stressful sometimes, right? If you've got a little baby and that baby makes a noise or that baby starts crying, it can be stressful for a mom and a dad. Sitting there. So we understand that. But let's talk about when they grow up a little bit. How do you teach your kids to sit in church, to listen, or at least not to be a distraction?
Right. It's possible.
Is it?
It is.
Are you sure?
Yes, you can even do it as a one-parent rodeo.
You're a single parent on Sundays. Is this what you're saying?
Well, no, I say that, but the expectation comes from both of us, but you're not sitting there on Sunday. So I'm implementing what we've discussed at home.
Yeah.
And they know that when we get home, there could always be a firm talking.
They don't want me to start correcting from the stage.
Right. We have not had to do that.
Yeah, that
would
be.
I think I just
not
want to
a
go
good
back.
idea.
Our kids, so the way church, before COVID, we had Sunday night church. And once you were 4, you came to church on Sunday nights. So we were here Sunday morning and Sunday night. And when my kids were 4, between 4 and 5, they started coming to church on Sunday nights. And
that was a tough season.
We had to be prepared.
I would be like, hey, what'd you think about the sermon? And you were like, I have no idea. There was a 4-year-old next to me. I have no idea what you said.
There was a 4-year-old, a 6-year-old, and
8-year-old, a 10-year-old. Yeah, I was just trying to keep everybody quiet.
Yes.
Because it can be a little chaotic if you've got a little kid with you.
And just teaching, because you want to, that time, yes, we want to listen and we want to learn, but you also, it's a teaching time, and it's purposeful for them to be sitting in church. We always used to tell our kids, you get to go to church. You don't have to go to church. We get to. It's a privilege to go. And so, did they love it?
I gotta go listen to Dad.
Yeah, I gotta go listen. Is Dad preaching?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, but it was the nature. I mean, it was just the flow of our life. We went Sunday mornings. We went Sunday nights. And once you finish 4th grade, now you're in church on Sunday mornings. So is it possible for your kids to learn to sit at a young age in church? That is the question.
Yeah, and I think it's a broader question. Like, is it possible at all to teach your kids to be disciplined and sit and be still and listen instead of always having to be entertained, always having to be engaged? Like, if you, and it really is the expectation you set and it's the standards you set. So if you think my kid will never be quiet unless, you know, I'm always entertaining them, or they always have something, or they always have a screen, or they always have this or that. And so let's be clear, when we're talking about kids sitting in church, we're not talking about, here's my phone, you can play a game as long as the volume's down, you can put headphones in and listen to the show, like, or whatever. Like, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about being engaged, singing stand up, sing the songs, sit down. No, you don't get to color, you don't get to play until dad starts preaching, because we have to save that for that moment. You know, so hopefully it lasts till the end of the sermon, depending on how long-winded the preacher is. Yes. And so what we mean is actually being engaged in the service to an extent. At 4, it's going to be hard to sit there, open your Bible, underline, listen, take notes. So there would be, you know, here's something you can color. Here's a crossword when they're a little older. Here's, you know, draw these lines or do these sorts of things. You know, and some churches have things for kids specifically that are connected to the sermon and the topic of the day. But I think there's a larger conversation about how kids these days are not expected to sit and be still, be quiet, and listen. Like, they don't have to do that at the table anymore. They can just grab their food and go play their game, or they'll sit I mean, this is personal, and so it's just a preference, but it blows me away when I see a family at dinner and the mom's in her phone and the dad's in his phone and every single kid is staring at a device. And it's like, yeah, they might be sitting there quiet, but you are probably developing something down the road that you're not going to enjoy and appreciate. And so we've even tried, when we go out to dinner, hey, even with the teenagers now, put your phone away. We're going to have a conversation.
Let's leave your phone in the car, or that kind of thing.
And that's easier said than done, but you build those things in when they're little. And yes, we would have distractions like, here's a page to color, you know, write down the word Jesus when you hear dad say it, write down the word Bible. You know, we would have almost like a find these words while I was talking, I guess you assumed I'd talk about Jesus and the Bible.
Well, yeah. So I had age appropriate things that we did. So everybody had a bag that they brought to church on Sunday night. And if you were young, usually had a coloring book in it, had stickers in it, and some type of notebook for them to take notes, quote unquote.
And nothing could be too crinkly, plasticky.
Well, no, we don't do.
Yeah. While somebody's, they're trying to open it while somebody's talking. That's crazy.
Yes.
That's serious though.
Yeah,
like, like, here's your coloring book, and it's still got the plastic wrap around it. So if I'm up there preaching, it's like, the old lady opening her candy for 30 minutes, so it can get distracting sometimes.
Yes, So that wasn't in my book.
It's in my book.
Okay. Well, I meant anyway. So, and then as I got older, I would go ahead and write down words that we wanted them to be familiar with, especially early readers, like Bible words that we wanted them to be familiar with, words that you may or may not say. And so then they would have to write them like spelling words a few times, just so it would help them start understanding what those Bible words are. And if I knew what you were preaching on, I obviously could go look at the verses and write out, they could write the verses and copy it down. So they're listening, they're getting the word, it's keeping them quiet, and there were certain things that they had to do before they could get their sticker book out or their whatever. But the option was never to have a device. Could they have a snack? Maybe, but not. It wasn't typical. That was much more if they were younger. I would shove goldfish in their mouth.
Or gummies.
Yes, or gummies. And so, but then as they got older, they were expected to take notes in church. They were expected to have their Bible in church and to not be on their phones.
Older is probably closer to they were never on their phones.
Right.
But older is probably more like a first grade, second grade.
Yes, I would say, yes. I would say for sure by third grade, they could write down the points. So I would write the points and leave it blank, and then they could fill it in, and then we worked towards, now that's what they do anyway. They just, or most of the kids now have their notebooks and we, print it out for them, but they'll transfer it to their actual notebook. So our kids still bring a Bible to church, and they still bring a notebook to take notes in. because we are firm believers in taking notes.
That's right. And then when they take their Bibles to church,
They leave them.
they leave them here.
Yes.
All over the church. And
Yes.
every week, it's like Miss Sherry says, here's a Bible somebody brought to me. And there's no telling how many Bibles that we've lost or just left here at Second Baptist Church. We are big believers in spreading the word all over the place.
Hey, it's proof that they bring their Bibles to church.
Yeah, you can bring them home. So let me ask you this. Let's go back just a little bit. Okay, so practical question. We would always take them to the restroom before church started to make sure that they're not looking at you 10 minutes in, 20 minutes in. Because Sunday night church, when they were really little, it was probably just an hour. It wasn't a whole lot more than an hour. Sunday morning is an hour 15. But we didn't really play the I gotta go potty game a whole lot, right?
Right.
I cannot remember. I mean, there might have been a moment where you grabbed a kid, got up, walked out to take him to the restroom, but that was very much the exception and not the rule.
Well, we just don't make that a habit. That's just, we go to the restroom prior to, we take care of all of those things prior to, just so it's not a habit, it's not a distraction for other people, and we said this earlier, I did all of this in front of the entire church.
On the second row.
My kids were, quote unquote, raised in front of the church. So everybody knew if they were acting a fool. They knew if I had to thump them. They knew what was happening. And if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Well, you've even had people who were at Sunday night church just kind of making jokes with you through the years. And you're like, I just can't wait until your kid is.
And they have a kid.
4 years
And we don't
old.
have Sunday night church. It's okay, though. You know who you are if you're listening. So let's be honest. For some people, the I gotta go potty is really more of a habit than a really so kids know, oh, he started preaching, I'm gonna get up and walk out and I'm gonna come back in, and then there's some adults that do that every single Sunday too, in Sunday morning church. So that, not that that's a pet peeve of any preacher, but I've prayed about it and I'm fine. But in the end, there are people who constantly feel like, I got to get up and go out, and I got to come back in, and I got to get up and go out and come back in. And so what we try to do is build that into our kids, that is, in very, 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 very rare exceptions. And it is not it's, you almost better be like it's impossible. You've said before that their eyes were
their eyeballs
floating.
need to be floating.
Yes,
you better be about to burst.
Before. Yes.
And then we're going to have, and I don't think we made it a big time discipline issue, but we were going to have a conversation about this afterwards, because you should have known. It's not like this was disobedience.
I was like, we didn't have this issue, so it's not like this. This was not something that people got in trouble for, really.
We've had the issue where they're like, we got to go, and you're like, tough, you can't. That's happened before, and in the end, if there ever is an exception made, that's the rare exception. So I think that's important to say, because if kids can learn to control something, they'll control it. If kids can learn to control a situation, they know that I can say these words and then I can get what I want. I gotta do this, gotta get out, so I can get up and move around or whatever. So that was just one of the things that we said, we're going to make sure that when we get in here, we're ready for church.
Well, and I think the whole purpose of that is to be engaged. Like, if the parents don't want to be there and the kids don't want to be there, there's always going to be a distraction. There's always going to be a reason to get up. And so parents teaching their kids from the beginning, like from home, from Saturday night, we are going to church tomorrow. This is the best day of the week. Let's be excited about it. And then, they may not like or understand exactly what's happening, but learning to sit is okay. And there's enough standing and singing. I remember holding many of them when they were 4 and singing the songs to them, because they couldn't read them on the screen. So you sing to them, and then they learn the songs and they sit, and eventually they're reading the songs and they're still singing them and they're standing up, and they're still not perfect. But I think we have 3 singing in the choir now. Yeah. And they're all in some capacity serving.
And one that wants to sing in the choir, she's just not old enough yet.
Yeah, she's not old enough
and
yet.
One off at college.
So I instilling that, even though it's hard, I go back to parenting is hard, but parenting in church is hard. teaching them and training them in church is hard. And just because they want to do something doesn't mean they can't. And they're coming from children's church where everything is fun. The whole thing is fun. They need, like, children's church is actually mini church. I mean, they're supposed to sit in those little chairs, not be a disruption to their neighbors. So talk about that at home, because if if my other kids were serving in children's church and they came home and told me my children in children's church were acting a fool, like, they got in trouble.
Yeah. We're intentional about children's church here. It is more engaging and active, of course, but it is also part of it. There's a time to sit and listen, and here's how you learn, and this prepares you for church. Because let's be honest, you can talk about kids at 4 years old being in a church service, but then when they finish 4th grade, they're in big church on Sunday mornings here at Second. Like, that's the line, right? Mm-hmm. Kids' church is 4th grade and down. Well, 4th grade, 1st to 4th, and then you got preschool church and all the other things that go along with that. But 4th grade is a big transition too. They're like, some of our kids were ready. They were like, I'm so ready to be in big church, and others dreaded it. They're like, I want to go back to kids' church, So that's a big transition, and it's a time of learning as well, because there's been a certain standard, and now there has to be a different standard. I'm a brand new 5th grader. I'm 9, 10, 11, whatever, and now I've got to sit here for the entire time. That's a big deal.
It is, and they learn. It's an adjustment. It's a couple of weeks, and they adjust, and everybody adjusts. And parents, it's okay if you have to train those first couple of weeks, and you don't know exactly what Pastor Jim talked about those couple of weeks.
That's okay?
Well, I said a couple of weeks. Like, if you're trying to train your child and you miss it, but teach them.
If you're there and you don't know what Pastor Jim talked about, you can always check out our podcast.
You can check out
go on Facebook. You can watch the whole thing, because I know that if people leave and they don't know what I'm talking about, they're really going to be sad about that.
Yes,
so,
always.
So they're going to learn that.
But I just if you miss it, you should be training them. Teach them how to take the notes. Like, a lot of times I'll write the word, and then, like, Caroline copies if she's missed it. Like, they want to fill in those blanks for sure.
Right.
So everybody's trying to do the right thing and pay attention, and I don't know if they're all trying to, but
we hope
it's the goal.
We hope to train them to learn, to pay. I mean, and some of our kids naturally sit a little more still and are a little more quiet, and some of our kids are naturally not still and not quiet.
Well, and there have been times where, like, you must leave your phone in your car. You're not allowed to have it here. But what do we do? What do you do with the kid? It wasn't an option for us because, I don't know if it would have been, but it's your profession. Like, this is what we're doing. But what about the kids who don't want to go to church? And it is a big fight every Sunday morning.
Yeah. I think that, I think you would agree with this. If you've got let's just say that typically would happen kind of, when they're getting a little older, teenage years or whatever. And I don't know, sometimes a switch can flip, and that's just all of a sudden this has just happened. But a lot of times I think that builds over years. We've been fighting about this, and now we're fighting about that, and now we're fighting about something else, and now we're fighting about church. And so sometimes I would say I think that there's already built in some of that conflict and tension. I know that it's part of what I do as a pastor, but if I was a teacher, if I worked on Robins Air Force Base, or if I, was a farmer or whatever, like, church would be the habit of our lives no matter what, and it would be a non-negotiable. And so I don't know, it would be hard for us to have a really, really deep conversation, difficult conversation, or conflict with the whole, I don't want to go today. I do know this. I know us well enough that we wouldn't be like, oh, okay, if that's what you want, then, enjoy. We'll be back soon. My hope has always been that they want to go to church. Like, our teenagers are even like, we got to get there early. You get to play non-square before everything happens. Gaga ball. Got to get there early. So,
for sure.
Teenagers want to be at church early, even on Sunday mornings. So I think that, number one, you got a kid that doesn't want to go to church. There's a heart issue, right? And so you want to start tying the heartstrings, building the relationship, have those conversations. Number two, remember who the parent is. What if your kid just woke up and was like, I don't want to go to school? would you be like, okay, no big deal. You don't have to go to school. I don't want to do my homework. I got a job. I don't want to go to work. Well, why? Like, why would we make them go to school? Why would we make them go to work? Why would we make them go to Thanksgiving dinner? Why would we make them do all these other things but let them feel like church is the option that they can actually reject? So I think there have to be some established values. Yes, if you've got a kid that's at that point where they feel like they can, kind of let that opinion be known and they're going to fight about it, you've got some hard issues that you really got to start digging into. Because
and it may not
I promise that's not the only fight in the house. If that's the case, that's not the only fight.
Or they're seeing something in you that they don't like too. Like, say, if you're dragging them to church but you're acting one way, your integrity is different. Like, you don't have any integrity. You're one way at church, and then when you go home, it's like a totally different person.
Yeah, if you're an awful person, and here's the saddest thing to me, the awful people that are church people that don't live like it, but then want to beat their kids over the head with the Bible when their kid does something wrong, where their kid sees them living in a hypocritical, unbiblical, sinful way, and then their kid does something wrong, and it's like, well, all of a sudden you're going to take the Bible and use that as a club against your kids. Well, no wonder they're not going to want to embrace that or be like, they need to see that consistent obedience and faith in your life. And that's huge. And I'm not saying every kid that doesn't want to go to church is because of, parents aren't doing the right thing. But that does happen.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a heart check for you and for your kids. Why do you not want to go? Not you're going regardless. Like, why do you not want to go? Is there, something going on with them? It opens up conversation. Not that it's an excuse. They still have to go, but there's different ways in which that can look different, for sure. But there.
For certain kids, it might be like, so-and-so was mean to me in class. Okay, let's talk about that. That's different than, I don't want to be at church because they teach the Bible. I don't believe the Bible. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Or, I don't know if I've got any friends in my group. Or, I just don't really connect with this teacher in my life group or whatever. Like, we've gone through, through the years, we've gone through moments and seasons when they were younger where it's like, this is not my favorite class. Well, guess what you're going to do?
Yeah.
You're going to sit there, you're going to open the Bible, you're going to learn, you're going to smile, you're going to contribute, you're going to grow, and you're going to be better for it because you got to do hard things. And I think one of the things, like a general principle that this comes back to is kids these days, boy, I sounded old, didn't I? Kids these days, they don't like to do hard things, and most of their parents won't make them. Mm-hmm. And like, if you're going to be a success in life, you're going to have to do hard things, and you're going to have to work through some struggles. You're going to have to do some things you don't want to do. And a lot of times, being a leader, being a parent, is getting people to accomplish something they want to accomplish by getting them to do the things they don't want to do. How about that? Like, you want to make an A I want to make an A in this class. Do your homework. Well, I don't want to do homework. Well, if you want to accomplish the goal, you got to do the work. And so you want to win a football game, you got to put in the practice. You got to put in time with weights. I mean, those kind of things. So you want a kid that grows to love the Lord and follow Jesus. I'm just going to tell you, and you guys can comment away, you're not going to have a kid that turns out to be a faithful follower of Jesus, loves the Lord, appreciates the Bible, shares the gospel, respectful and obedient, separate from the local church. This is God's plan A to reach the world, and it's God's plan A for growth and discipleship within the family, right? So the family has to do that. The church does that in conjunction. And the church is going to be absolutely critical for that. So don't think as a parent, I'll just let them stay home. This is a phase. And no, they're going to get used to sleeping on Sundays, and they're going to get used to being wise in their own eyes. They're going to get used to, well, I have a say-so now. And it'll grow beyond just, I don't want to go to church. Okay, so I think it's clear to say for us, church has always been a priority, always will be. And so if parents want church to be a priority for your kids, guess what it has to be for you? It's got to be a priority. So talk about that today, and we'll continue talking about parenting next week. I promised our listening audience that I have some rapid fire questions for you.
Oh boy.
And you would not know what they are.
Don't know if I'll have good answers.
Okay. You'll have great answers. All right. Are you ready?
It's definitely better when I do this.
Do you like rapid fire questions?
No.
Are you nervous about these rapid fire questions?
Oh, no.
Are you scared about what you're going to say?
That might be true.
Do you have any experience traveling abroad?
Yes.
Where?
Israel.
Favorite place ever?
I mean, I've only
Other
really
than next
gone
to me.
Yeah, I was like, I've only gone to Canada and Israel.
Canada. So which one? Israel or Canada?
Oh, Israel.
Israel. Okay.
Well, I stopped in Germany briefly.
Frankfurt.
Yeah.
I laid out and slept on.
Slept.
Yeah.
I sleeped.
You sleeped. Yeah. Do you like spicy foods?
Yes.
What's your favorite spicy food?
Oh, I don't know that.
Do you like to dance?
I mean, I guess I'm not good at it. I have zero rhythm. I would like to take dance classes once the kids are older.
With who?
You? Like, that's awkward. What if I can't that's what I was like. You've known that since Jake was little, and you tell me no because you're a Baptist preacher. So I'm like, what?
It's not just that Baptists don't dance; Baptists can't dance.
Yes,
right?
well,
there's two
it's
things
okay.
to that, right?
Yes, but I don't know my left and right, so this is totally going to be a terrible event if you wanted to try.
If you're on the dance floor by yourself, you got left, right?
Yeah, that's it.
There you go.
That's it. That's me.
What's your favorite color?
Black.
What's your dream car?
Oh, I like the one I have.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So.
What about which is a Toyota Sequoia?
Yeah. It's the tires, though.
But it's the TRD. So you got big sassy tires to match your personality.
Yes, it's all the tires.
What's your favorite type of pizza?
I don't really
Salad?
want pizza. I mean, I guess it would be Hawaiian pizza.
Favorite food?
Watermelon? I guess.
Favorite word?
I don't know that.
Oh, I thought you were going to say my name. All right, anyway.
That's so weird. like, what is your favorite word?
Jesus or Jim, right? You couldn't have gone wrong with that.
No,
one more. What is one, you're hating this, what's one bucket list item you would like to fulfill this year?
This year?
I'll give you a whole year, 2025 middle year.
I don't know. My bucket lists are weird because I've done so many of them.
Well, you married me, so
yes.
That was the number one on your bucket list.
It was. I guess I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay, well, what's a bucket list item?
I gave up on those when I turned 40. I ran the marathon, and that was it.
Ran a marathon. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, if I wasn't scared of everything, I'd probably have a longer bucket list.
We could go skydiving.
Yeah, but I won't do that.
Bungee jumping.
I would have a heart attack before I even got
paragliding off the Andes Mountains.
I'm literally sweating my palms thinking about that.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's go to that place. Is it New York or Chicago that now you can go? Is it the Sears?
No,
Like
that's
you can
so
go out
ridiculous.
and there's glass and you could.
I would vomit.
Look down. You could do it.
No.
Okay.
I couldn't.
All right.
I mean, I would like to go. Oh, I know, but I can't do it this year, so that's throwing me off. I want to do on that 52-day cruise that takes you from Australia to London. That's what I would like to do.
Okay. I will need an extended time off.
You will need a lot.
Or we'll do like a Zoom sermon or something like that.
Yeah.
One more question.
Uh-huh.
You ready for this podcast to be over?
Yes. Yes.
All right. Thanks for joining us today on Second Thought. I think I'm going to do rapid fire questions for Stephanie every week. That was really fun. Yeah. That's why we need a video podcast for people to see you rolling your eyes at me. Anyway, thanks for joining us. secondfamily.church/thoughts. You can send your questions, comments, insults, accusations, and always your compliments for Stephanie. And if you've got any questions for us, you can reach out to us and get connected there as well. God bless you guys. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll catch you next time.